Welcome to a March Madness edition of Big Ben and K-Win. I'm K-Win. Big Ben is actually out in Palm Springs. It is a milestone birthday for his wife, so he could not fight that. But he will be sneaking in at some point because we're broadcasting for the next 3 hours. NoFilter.net, Caffeine TV, YouTube TV. We're everywhere. Best day of the year. We've got AJ Nance on the show today, and he is not in the transfer portal.
How you doing, man? It's good to be here.
How are you? Best day of the year.
It's best day of the year. And you know what? We kind of talked about this off air. Thursday and Friday are always like the most fun, and then it slowly like declines with excitement because there's less games. But no, it's the best time of the year, and I'm very grateful that you had me back on here after being on 4 or 5 months ago, something like that.
Yeah, happy to have you. You were great on the show for football, and you're like, hey, I got to get on for basketball.
Yes, sir.
So we've got you on, and we're going to have some fun here. We've got Duquesne, BYU, we got Michigan State, Mississippi State.
Mm-hmm.
I've been kind of toggling between both, and it's the first 2 games of the tournament. I already want to adjust my bracket.
Sure. So yeah, going into this, there's certain games where I don't even pay attention to the team. That's probably a downfall, but this is one of those games with Michigan State and Mississippi State where I didn't really do a whole lot of research on Mississippi State. And I think I've looked at Ken Pom for 4 or 5 days straight here. My brain's like melted. But I did pick Michigan State, the Tom Izzo effect. Hogard's been here before and had a great success. He's had good success today so far as well. So I picked them. And then that Duquesne BYU matchup, I actually picked Duquesne. And a little spoiler, I picked all 11 seeds to win. And I know not all of them are going to win, but I feel like at least 3 of the 4 could. I feel like that's every year. So yeah, I'm really high on Duquesne. Being from St. Louis, they beat SLU in the conference tournament. So I watched them a lot throughout that conference tournament run. And being a huge LeBron James fan, they kind of have that connection with prior high school coach as their coach now. So I'm high on Duquesne.
Well, let's get into these 11 seeds. So Duquesne, BYU, got that. NC State over Texas Tech. NC State coming in on fire after the ACC tournament. Oregon, South Carolina. I love that pick. Like, Oregon's got some freshman guards. They've got some studs that it just took them a little bit of time to figure it out. So I think Oregon State could win that game. And then what is the other 11? New Mexico State. I love me some New Mexico State.
I love them. I absolutely love them.
Like, their guards, Donovan Dent, Joel Mashburn Jr., I think it's Jalen House. They can score and they can defend.
My thing was, when I was watching the selection show, it's very interesting because I thought to myself, I don't want to see Clemson and New Mexico near each other because I thought both teams could make a deep run. And let alone not being near each other, they're facing each other. Clemson with PJ Hall, I think he's the best player in that game. Yeah. But there's a big guy for New Mexico, Nelly Jr. Joseph, and he's about the same size, and I think he can kind of bang with PJ Hall. I went back and forth because talking with a buddy, I think whoever wins that game can make an Elite 8 run. I think they're that good.
I agree with you.
And I also think with Clemson, if you would have asked me mid-December about this matchup, I would have said Clemson because they were almost, I think at one point, even a top 10 team in the country. If not, they were really close, top 12. And New Mexico was in top 25, then slipped, and now they're on a run again. And I just think it's about momentum going into the tournament. And New Mexico's got the momentum. I think Clemson's like 5-5 or something like that in their last 10. So, I'm high on the Lobos.
I'm super high. Like, when I played way back when I was a guard. So I'm always biased to guards. But in the NCAA tournament, the guards are the ones that make the difference. They have the ball in their hands. And if you've got better guards who can handle late game pressure, can create for others, and can score, I think you can go further in the tournament. And the simple math I did here was New Mexico's guards were better than Clemson guards. So that's where I picked them.
Even hopping and building off of that, having good guards is great, but having senior guards is great. Yeah. And they have that. I think it's just about the experience. Like, this is, if we think about it, me fresh out of college, these are young men. And I just know how I was through those 4 or 5 years of college where there's a lot of like pressure going into this. And senior guards are most time a lot more mature than freshman guards. And they have that experience. And the Lobos definitely have that experience.
Definitely have it. So how many brackets are you in?
I made 10. I made 10 of them. I have like a couple like Gonzaga winners because I love the Zags.
Yeah.
I have a couple upset crazy ones, and then I have a couple like serious ones. Like I said, my brain is melted from looking at Ken Palm these last few days, but I absolutely love it.
Your brain's going to melt even further once all these games get into action. Because right now we only have 2.
I know.
A little later we can juggling 4, and then there's innings, and it's crazy.
Yeah,
like,
it's
I
wild.
already told my wife, like, I'm downstairs, I'm here, knock on the door, make sure I get some water to stay hydrated, but I'm ready to go.
That's funny.
So how would you rank today, first day of March Madness, to the Super Bowl, to Christmas, to your wedding date? Like, this is a monumental event.
You know what's hilarious about that? My wife and I were laying in bed last night before we went to sleep, and I told her tomorrow is literally Christmas Day for me. So I rank it up there with Christmas Day. I think this is more important than the Super Bowl just because there's so many things that are happening. The Super Bowl, there's so much buildup for one game. And sometimes, like last year, as a Seahawks fan, I hated the Niners, and as being from St. Louis, all the St. Louis Rams fans that joined the Chiefs, I hated the Chiefs. So it was like one of those miserable experiences. This, it's like you cheer for the underdogs. You have your favorite team, is in Gonzaga for me, and so this is up there with below the wedding day, but it's up there with everything else for sure.
Yeah, it's my favorite sporting event. I like baseball. I'm a big baseball fan. I like opening day, but why this is so great is because anything can happen in one game. Like David can beat Goliath in one game.
Yes.
And I go through the brackets every year and I'm like, they'll win. I'm like, wait a minute, that's too many low seeds. I gotta go back. And I'm like, wait, James Madison would play who in this scenario? But that's what's fun. There was a stat there, I think, over the last 9 years to the Final Four, there's been at least one 5 or worse seed. Yeah. So, like, as I was doing my bracket, I'm like, all right, well, then, like, someone like a St. Mary's has to go, or a Texas Tech could get hot, or a San Diego State.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a lot of upsets this year. And going into this, I thought I have to pick some upsets, obviously. But I think this year, and I feel like I say this every year, but I think this year is a little different than most because I think there's tiers. I think UConn and Houston are in their own. I think right below them is probably Tennessee, North Carolina, Arizona, Purdue, kind of there too. Kentucky, maybe. So you
don't think Purdue is in a class with Houston and UConn, tier 1? You think they're below that?
I don't, only because I think they're still, and it's no Purdue hate, because I kind of hate all the hate. I want them to do well, just because how much hate they're getting. But I think they are very predictable still. I think it's find a way to stop Zach Edey, and you look at their matchups. I think they get by Grambling. I watched them last night. But after that, TCU and Utah State have size that could cause some trouble for Purdue. And I just think at some point they're going to run into some size that is going to give them trouble. But no, like I think with those tiers being there, I think under those teams, anything can happen. Like literally anything can happen. And so that's why I'm kind of high on, like, for example, I have New Mexico State in my Sweet Six or Elite Eight. I have Florida making an Elite Eight run. So I have.
So are you not scared about Florida's big who got hurt?
You know, I was at first, and then I looked back on it, and he's not a huge impact guy. He gets a lot of rebounds, but he's not a huge scoring guy for them. They have a guy, Tyrese Samuel, who's getting like 14 and 8 a game. I'm really high on Walter Clayton Jr., the guard there. Jay Billis the other day even said if he had one guard in the country to take the last shot of the game, he'd pick Walter Clayton. Oh, wow. I watched a lot of them at the end of SEC play this year, and I think it's Poulin is their other guard. He turns over the ball like one time a game. So I like guys that, and he's a senior. So senior guards that don't turn over the ball, I think it's going to be going to pay off for them. But yeah, I'm not high on Marquette. I don't know if you planned on getting into this, but if there's a 2 seed to lose, if there's a 2 seed to lose in the first round, I don't have the guts to do it on my main bracket here. But Western Kentucky may give Marquette a run for their money.
Well, Tyler Kolek's been out for multiple weeks. He's got an oblique.
Yeah,
like he's going to come back and play. I don't know how effective he is going to be. I don't know how healthy he's going to be. They could lose. I have them getting by that first round into the second round. But if we stay in that region, I've fallen in love with Colorado. Like in the beginning of the season, all I heard about was Cody Williams, top 5 pick, Cody Williams. And I finally watched Colorado play last night. He comes off the bench. He may be the 3rd or 4th best player. Like KJ Simpson and De Silva are studs. And there's always one team that gets on a heater in that play-in game, uses that momentum to get to like an Elite 8 or Sweet 16. So I'm pulling for Colorado. I'm showing my Pac-12 bias while there still is a Pac-12 left.
Yeah, the Pac-2.
I got Colorado. Going to at least the Elite 8, upsetting Florida, upsetting Marquette. And then that's where it gets interesting because Colorado could potentially play like a Kentucky or Texas Tech.
I like that thinking. I had Florida beating them in the first round, but I do believe whoever wins that Florida-Colorado matchup tomorrow, I think they make the Elite 8. Kentucky's so good offensively, but I don't think they can get stops. And I don't remember the stat I saw, but John Calipari's not had, and I like John, but he's not had a whole lot of success in the tournament. For a long time now. And so I think, and Marquette being iffy, like I said, I think NC State cools off, and I don't believe Texas Tech. So I think whoever wins that Florida-Colorado matchup tomorrow is in the Elite 8 versus, in my opinion, Houston.
I like Coach Cal too, but the way that his program is built, you start from scratch every time. You've got all these NBA talent and players that you got to blend together, which you're going to make the tournament. But for them to win it all, they need like Anthony Davis, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. Like they need those dudes. And I think they have them in their backcourt with Reed Shepherd and Dillingham. And Reeves is good. But one, they don't play defense. And two, I don't know if they can win any other way than trying to get 80 on the board. And you've got to win in a half-court game. You've got to win with like some sort of defense. Like Texas Tech can score. Kentucky can't stop anyone. Texas Tech might, if they get through, be able to beat Kentucky. In one of my brackets, I have Texas Tech beating Kentucky.
I don't hate that at all. That's a really good point about Kentucky, though. They don't have ever a junior or senior presence on that team, ever. No. It's always just that NBA-type talent. I'm really high on NC State just because they went through Duke and they went through North Carolina. And they got super hot. And like I said, having momentum going into the tournament. And also the two DJs, DJ Burns, the big fella. I don't know who. I mean, Tech playing in a very physical Big 12. Maybe they can figure that out. But he's a mismatch in that game. Tech goes up to 6'7". That's about it. And then DJ Horn has been shooting the ball lights out too. So I could see a world where NC State makes a run even past Kentucky because I don't know how they're going to stop Burns. I could see NC State going far as well.
So in your serious brackets, Final Four winners, who you liking?
So you make a good point about the 5 or above seed making it, and I will say I do have Drake going to the Elite 8. That's like a crazy one for me as a 10 seed. But my Final Four, what's that?
I like that one. We're agreeing a lot.
So Drake was interesting to me because I think they have the potential to lose to Washington State. I mean, that could happen. And that would kind of screw up everything. But Iowa State just doesn't score enough for me. They're great defensively, obviously, top 2 in the country, if not number 1. But Drake has DeVries, the coach's kid, and he can absolutely shoot the lights out. He's 6'7". And I'm not super high on Illinois. Like I could see a world if Duquesne wins today where Illinois gets beat by Duquesne. But anyway, my Final Four out of the East, I have Auburn. I'm really high on Auburn.
Okay.
Last year, I should say this. I said this on our podcast as well. Last year, I picked UConn to win it all as a 4 seed. Now, I think that was kind of the trendy pick because they got hot at the time. But my reasoning was they were top 10 in offensive efficiency and top 10 in defensive efficiency. The only team in the country this year with top 10 in both is Auburn at 10th in defense and 4th in offense. I have Auburn coming out of the East and knocking off UConn in the Sweet 16. In the West, I have North Carolina. I think they have, in my opinion, one of the easiest roads. I have Grand Canyon in the Sweet 16, so I think they're going to face some teams like New Mexico, in my opinion, in the Elite 8. So I think North Carolina comes out of that region. In the South, I have Houston. I think Houston's 2 guards, LJ Cryer and Jamal Shed. Those two guys can absolutely get after it. I like Houston a lot. And then I'm really high on Tennessee. I do have the Zags going to the Elite Eight. I will say,
it's all right. We're a West Coast pod. We support you with your Zags.
Okay, I love it. We are not as good as past years. Okay. But if you look at the bracket here, the region that we're in, it's very favorable. Like Purdue's your 1 seed. I think Kansas loses to Samford tomorrow. Without McCullough, that's a huge loss. You have, Creighton, which they don't have depth. I think Tennessee's the only team in this region I'm really scared of. I think Utah State could get hot, but no, I have Tennessee beating the Zags in the Elite Eight and Tennessee going to the Final Four. And then my championship, I actually have Auburn and Houston. I have Houston winning it all. So, I have a little Southern matchup in the final there.
Little Southern matchup. I clearly did not do enough research on Auburn because in most of my brackets, I have Auburn out early. So in what I think is my number 1 bracket, which could change based on the outcome today or tomorrow, I've got UConn coming out of the East. I mean, they've got so many weapons. Tristan Newton, Klingon, Cam Spencer transfer from Rutgers, and Stephen Castle, who is finally starting to play at an elite level. Like the knock on him was he couldn't shoot, but since January, he's actually shooting that thing.
The thing is, Castle's a top 20 NBA prospect, and he's their 4th best player. They're you can't go wrong picking them.
And their offense is a thing of beauty with that motion and like Princeton back cuts, and like they just own the time of possession, and they're really efficient on offense with all of those weapons. I think it's going to be hard for UConn to lose. So I've got UConn coming out of the East. I'm going Baylor in the West. Like I've got so many upsets in the West. I had Mississippi State winning, which I didn't see enough of Mississippi State. I just heard that they were big and strong, and they had Hubbard, who was a guard, and Tulu Smith. So I was riding that train to win today and then beat Carolina. Not looking good as of yet. I'm heavy on Charleston. Like they're coming in on a heater, winning 12 straight, 20-0 when they score at least 80 points. What do we know about Alabama? They cannot defend. So I have Charleston beating them and actually going up against Grand Canyon in the West. I have Nevada beating Dayton and Arizona. My West could go upside down quickly. But I picked Baylor coming out of that. I think Scott Drew, Baylor's one of the best 3-point shooting teams. I'm a little scared about their defense, but I think experience and guard play. So I've got UConn and Baylor. I got UConn beating Baylor. And then I've got Creighton actually coming out and playing Kentucky. So scratch everything that I said about Kentucky because I need them in at least one bracket. And then I've got Creighton against Connecticut. And I've got Connecticut and Creighton in a Big East with UConn winning. I'm high on Creighton because they've got that big guy in the center, Ryan Kalkbrenner.
Yep.
3-time defensive player in the year. And if somehow they can play Purdue or Gonzaga, I think he can be a difference maker because what Creighton won't let you do is shoot 3-pointers. Like they extend all the way out. They let you beat with 2-pointers or challenge. And I like Baylor, Schreierman, and Trey Alexander. So it looks like it's a Big East final for me. So let's hope that comes true.
I was high on Creighton all year long until I dove deeper into it, and I probably shouldn't have done it. It's probably going to screw up everything. I spent hours looking at this thing.
What's wrong with Creighton?
My problem with Creighton, and it's the same problem I have with North Carolina, even though I have North Carolina in the final or in the Final Four, is the depth issue. I think we saw that a couple of years ago when North Carolina faced Kansas. They run 6-7 guys deep, and let's say foul trouble happens, or in my opinion, I have Oregon beating them in the round of 32 because Dante is such a force, the big guy for Oregon. I think he could cause problems with Kalkbrenner. So, and who's the guard for Oregon? Coulthard, I believe.
I think it's like Jackson Kalstead or something like that.
Yeah. But he's a great player too. And I think he can kind of counter Alexander's play for Creighton. So I by no means disagree. I think Creighton could make a deep run. But it's March, so I gotta go a little crazy with it.
Yeah. You know what I love? Every potential game has a backstory to it.
Yes.
Because the coaching world and basketball world is so small. I would love to see Oregon play Creighton because I think Dana Altman was initially at Creighton.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be a great story to have.
Well, you're talking about the coaching matchup. You have the potential Tennessee, Texas with Barnes as well. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't think that happens. You were talking earlier about there's always a playing team that can make a deep run. And even though I don't have one making it super far, I do think Colorado State has enough to beat Texas tonight, I believe. Isaiah Stevens, the guard for Colorado State, didn't even play very well the other night, and they won. I mean, I don't think Virginia shouldn't even been in this thing in the first place. But I think Colorado State has enough to make a deep run. I have them losing to Tennessee in that second round, but keep an eye on Colorado State.
I read somewhere, this could be a wrong stat, like Virginia hasn't won a first-round game in like 4 or 5 years.
Well, probably since that championship.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Wow. Tony Bennett. I mean, he's a great coach, but
he is.
What I worry about him is maybe the game has changed too much and that he likes slow the ball down, very methodical, time of possession, play defense, and we see where offenses are going. It's like spread them out, 3-point line, guards, go, offense over defense. And the NBA is like that to some degree as well.
Yeah, definitely. No, I completely agree. I think he's kind of stuck in that defensive mindset. Not saying that defense isn't important because you obviously need it. But he has, I mean, going into this thing, I was looking at it, and Reese Beekman's great, but they had nobody else that could score the basketball. And they went, I think I saw it on Instagram, like 52 minutes of actual time without scoring a basket.
Wow.
It's unbelievable. But yeah, I think he needs to evolve. I think the greatest coaches, and me being a basketball coach now, I'm trying to figure it out as well. But I think the greatest coaches evolve as the game evolves. And I don't think he's done that.
I don't think he has either. Sorry, my dog was growling. I got to get him out of here. What do you think of the transfer portal? Like, you're a college coach.
I haven't honestly thought too much of it. The only thing that's kind of stuck in my mind is now it's open. I think it opened like this week or something, like the same time.
Monday.
Yeah, so like the same time that this is all going on, and I'm just thinking, all these college coaches, what are they going through? Because they have to probably assign guys to go do that while they're trying to focus on their games here. Transfer portal, NIL. It's kind of getting out of control, I guess, in a way. I'm not a huge hater of it, though. I've always thought, NIL-wise, players should be able to make some profit off their names like that. We promote them so much, especially during a tournament like this. They should be able to make some dough off that. But no, overall, I'm not a huge hater on the transfer portal either. But it is obviously one of the top topics to talk about nowadays in all college sports.
I was actually out to lunch, and I think I solved the transfer portal problem with a buddy of mine.
Yeah?
So I would love your take on it because you're in college sports. So
yeah,
I believe if a coach leaves, the player should be able to transfer. Like, if you chose a school and you were tied to that coach and that vision and that coach leaves, you should have a window of time when you can transfer. So I believe that should happen. Besides that, I think you're only allowed to transfer once.
I don't hate that. That's good.
And if you want to transfer twice, because it is a free country, you have to sit out a year. That's how I would solve the problem.
Okay.
I think it would limit the portal.
It's funny you said the transferring only if your coach moves. That's like a fun fact about Utah State. All of those players on that roster weren't at Utah State last year. The Montana State coach or moved there, and he took pretty much everybody with him. So no, I like that. I like that way of thinking for sure. I think that could solve a lot of issues going on right now.
Yeah, like I'm all for kids getting money and maximizing their NIL, but the brand of basketball and the life lessons that you get from just like, oh, this didn't work, I'm gonna leave. Like, the grass isn't always greener, right?
Yes.
Okay, you didn't start as a freshman, right? Like, work a little harder, right? Like, you could, like, I mean, I don't know. I'm old school. Like, you make a decision, you stick with it. Like, there are some circumstances, I get it, where you might be homesick or maybe the college isn't a good fit. So yes, you do have the ability to transfer, but not 3 or 4 times in your college career. Like, I don't want to see 3 or 4 transfers.
Yes. No, that's a very good point. Because I believe, kind of like you're thinking, where all the power to the player, but I think there should be a limit. Like you said, you can't just keep running every time it gets difficult. Now, if a coaching issue or something happens, or like you said, even the homesick issue or whatever it is, I think one time is okay. But like, I don't know how many times. The one transfer sticking in my head is Eddie Lampkin, and I think he was just at TCU and then at Colorado. But I was trying to think of other ones. But there's some that I know that have gone to 3 or 4 schools and have just kept hopping around. So yeah. I like your way of thinking. The name that comes to
my mind is Keaton Slovis. They're Slovis. I think I might be butchering his name. He started at USC, then he was at Pitt, then he was at BYU, and it's like he just keeps going around.
Sure.
Like, I mean, good for him that he's doing it, but I don't know. It's too much.
Yeah, it is.
All right, so we have Duquesne 33-24, Michigan State 35-29. I underestimated Tom Izzo and the Spartan defense like greatly. Sure. Like, Michigan State's got some guys, they've got some studs, but as I'm watching this game, every shot is contested. Every shot is hard. Every shot is like a defended double team, and that's just Michigan State basketball.
It is.
Which I should have paid closer attention to when I picked my bracket.
No, they can absolutely get after it. And I said this on our podcast. I don't think there's a Michigan State run this year like they've had in prior years, because I think North Carolina is that good. Top heavy, like I said, but very good. But I do believe Michigan State pulls this one out, and I think they could keep it close with North Carolina. I really do.
Yeah, I think they can. And Duquesne, wow.
Love them.
10 now. BYU didn't score for like the first 4 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
BYU is a great passing team, can shoot the ball, but Duquesne is getting out and defending. I'm liking what I'm seeing so far.
Well, they have a couple guards that kind of jumpstart their whole team. The main one is Day Grant, and I described them both as NBA shot creators. Like, they have that ability to kind of, at the end of the shot clock, go get a bucket. I didn't really see that with BYU. Obviously, BYU playing in a tougher conference all year long, but Duquesne with the momentum. Their coach was LeBron's high school coach, like I mentioned.
What conference is it Duquesne in? 1, and 2, where is Duquesne?
I have no idea where Duquesne is. I'm guessing Ohio. That's okay. My guess. But they are in the Atlantic 10, the A10. But they also announced their coach, LeBron's high school coach.
Duquesne is in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Is it really? Okay. Yeah. Well, this is his last go around. He announced that before the tournament began. This is his last hurrah here as a coach. So I think they might be playing their hearts out a little harder for him.
Yeah, kind of the whole Dan Monson. You're a Gonzaga fan. Like, it was, I mean, way back. I think it was in like, I don't know, 2000 or 1999, I think, 2000, when Munson was with the Zags.
Yeah.
And that was the first run where they went to the Elite Eight, and they almost beat UConn. And then he left and went to Minnesota. Then Mark Few just took Gonzaga to the next level. And then you didn't hear much about Dan Munson. He's at Long Beach State. They fire him. He continues to coach. They win the Big West, and wow, they're in the tournament. So,
isn't that crazy?
That is crazy the way things work out.
No, that's one of my favorite storylines of this whole tournament, is that they're just kind of he's hanging on right now. Like, I don't even know if he wants to be there really, but he's hanging on. I think Arizona wins that matchup, but if I were to pick, like I said, Marquette was the number 1-2 seed for me that I thought could be on upset watch. I think Arizona could be, just because I have Nevada, I think, like you said as well, beating Arizona in that second round. For me, I think there's going to be a point where Caleb Love, it's him and everybody else, and he gets cold. And I just think, what's their backup option? And they have depth, but I don't know. I think there's going to be a night where Caleb Love gets cold. And Nevada, led by Jared Lucas, who played with Oregon State, in their deep run. I think Oregon or Nevada is going to upset Arizona in that second round.
Love it. Well, AJ, thanks for coming on the show.
Of course.
Bo Brock. So, Bo, look at AJ's. Bo used to live in Spokane.
That's right.
Right on. Let's go. Go Zags,
Northwest.
baby.
It's a tough first round matchup. I think McNeese is getting a little too much love, though.
I agree.
Going into the tournament, I thought McNeese was one of those teams that could upset anybody, and so I'm stressing it tonight too. But I'll hand it off to you, Bo. I appreciate it, Kyle, for having me on, and have fun, guys. Enjoy the tournament.
All right, A to Z Sports. Make sure you check out AJ Nance. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, Mr. Brock.
Yeah, we got to get a Nance involved in March Madness again. I love what you've done there, K-Win.
Do what I can. Big Ben is in Palm Springs, a milestone birthday for his wife. So
okay,
he could be popping in with some like aviator shades on from the pool. So
love it.
We'll see.
30's a big year. 30's a big year, you know?
I won't comment on how old she is.
Right.
21st. It's the 21st birthday.
That's right. That's right. Lots of people for the 21st birthday go to Palm Springs.
That's right. So how have you been?
I've been great, man. Just been covering this wild NFL offseason, trying to keep up with that while fill out a couple brackets here. Got in some survivor pools. I mean, I was just at it this morning. I got up early, got the coffee brewing, and started really deep diving it. How do you do it? Like when they do Selection Sunday, do you get right after it, or do you kind of marinate on the seedings and look at it before you really put pen to paper on a bracket?
So I take a cursory glance at the bracket and I mute the talking heads because too many years I get caught up in what they're saying and I don't go with my gut. And then I listen to some podcasts and then I get back to the bracket on like a Wednesday night and I really look in it. I gotta like let the emotions go. Let the thoughts of like, oh, this team over that team go. So heavy ingestion day of, give it a little time and then come back to it Wednesday night.
I love the process. I'm with that one, the process. Today, this was a little late for me. It's usually a Wednesday night cram sesh, and I love it, man. What do you think of the game so far today? It looks like Michigan State, Mississippi State are getting after it a little bit.
I underestimated Tom Izzo and Sparty.
I know.
I was telling AJ, I was caught up in it's Josh Hubbard who just scored for Mississippi State. They got Tulu Smith. They're big. They're physical. They can score. They beat Tennessee twice. But it's so hard to get a bucket against Michigan State. They just get in you.
Yeah.
Force a bad shot and they rebound. So I think I've already missed this one. I have Mississippi State winning here and beating Carolina.
Oh, man. I had Tar Heels getting a little bit deeper, but I'm with you on this game. I think I'm going to miss on this one. And it used to be for so long, and I can't believe we started discounting it, but they've fallen on a little thinner years. But it used to be death taxes and Michigan State, Sparty going to the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Duquesne up on BYU.
Oh.
Got Creighton just tipped with Akron. It's going to be an amazing day.
So how many brackets do you do?
I've got 2 official brackets. And then, like I said, I'm in a couple survivor pools where for the first time I went some big names. I have to admit, I went out in the first day last year. Like a lot of people, I think half the people in the survivor pool went out the first day in the last year, but I took North Carolina today.
So wait, walk me through the survivor for college basketball. I've done NFL, so I'm assuming it's the same. It's one team. You can't pick the same team twice.
Correct, but so for the first 2 days, it's two picks today and 2 picks tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I've got Carolina and Kentucky. I went a couple blue bloods today, but it's teams that. Like you're with these Tar Heels, like do you envision having to holster them for like a Sweet 16 run? I'm with you. I don't think so. So I'm going to use them and burn them right now. But I hope you're wrong as far as. But you had a round of 32 exit for Carolina, right? Okay.
Yeah. But what the great late Jimmy Valvano survive in advance. You got to pick the winner today. Worry about tomorrow's problem tomorrow.
That's right. That's right. I love it. I love it. I'm covering a team that's all about tomorrow. As far as the Arizona Cardinals, it's all about the rebuild, and next year is going to be their year. But no, in the tournament, it's now. It's like you win, you survive in advance now. That's why we love it. That's why we love some of these Cinderella stories come out, and sure they crush our bracket, but memorable moments, no doubt about it.
Memorable, yeah. Don't worry, my wife doesn't listen to this podcast. I ranked today, wedding anniversary, Super Bowl. Those are my top 3 life experiences. But this is my favorite day of the year. I love it.
Yeah. I'm with you. You know what? And I'm a weirdo. I've got the NFL draft in a top 10 experience, but it doesn't touch this. Like, no matter how dialed you are in on the college basketball season, these 4 days to open the tournament, you can't match it. It's unmatchable.
You can't. And these are teams competing at the highest level. One game, anything can happen. And so there's so many close games and buzzer beaters and upsets. It's the greatest sporting event of all time.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. I don't. I mean, that's just the parity that you get. Now we've seen 2 1s go down in the last couple of years. What's your feeling on this Purdue team? Because I see their path, and I don't see like a big upset brewing, and it pained me to put them going at least 2 rounds in this tournament. It's just they're boring to watch, and I have no confidence in them whatsoever, no matter who's their opponent.
They're fraudulent. They are frauds. I think they could lose to Utah State.
Yeah.
I think they could potentially lose to Gonzaga. They could lose to Creighton as well. Creighton's got a big 7-footer. They don't
get that Big Ten home cooking officiating that Edey benefits from. Their entire squad seems to benefit from. I just don't know. I don't think that's a hot take to really not feel confidence in this Purdue team. It's like, fool me once, fool me twice with them.
It's not Purdue, it's Purdue. Don't pick Purdue. I think they might be cursed, and I hate to say that, but they just can't get over the hump. They can't do it.
No.
Even though I do believe they have a great path in a bracket that would make sense to pick Purdue to at least go to the Final Four.
Yeah, I had to find a way. Yeah, I had to find a way to not let that happen. I'm like, okay, where's the upset going to happen? And made sure to as soon as I could do it. But the first 2 rounds, I'm like, I think that they'll probably win those games, right? And they're on like.
But they lost to Furman last year.
They did. They did. But don't you think that's going to fuel them at least to get out of the first round?
Listen, this could be like a Virginia situation when Virginia lost that game. I don't remember. I think it was a 2-15, and they heard about it all off season. The next year they won it all with like Kyle Guy and DeAndre Hunter. That easily could happen to Purdue because they have the experience and they have a very dominant force inside where you could put a zone around them, 2 guys. It's not going to make a difference.
Yeah, UMBC, that was legendary when they upset UVA, and then Virginia just completely just soiled themselves the other night, 42 points. As they were trying to at least beat fraud charges, but after they snuck into the tournament over, a Seton Hall or an Oklahoma, and even St. John's probably had a better case than Virginia, and they couldn't do it. They couldn't beat the charges, and they were thrown right into fraud jail on Tuesday night. So yeah, Purdue, they'll get Grambling today or tomorrow. And
maybe.
And then Utah State or TCU's right there looming. And then, as you said, is it KU? Is it Gonzaga? I think that's where their run ends in the Sweet 16.
I agree with you. So should we talk a little football while we have you?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
I mean, what do you think about the quarterback carousel that happened about a week ago.
Yeah. It was just a mass exodus from 2021 drafted quarterbacks, right? We saw that how the rest of the league feels about Justin Fields. Pittsburgh, it's a really fascinating. Like the rubber's going to meet the road somewhere. They're like, Justin Fields is 10-30 in his career, and Russell Wilson hasn't exactly been lighting the world on fire. But Mike Tomlin, like we talk about death taxes, and Mike Tomlin and his Steelers teams finishing over 500. Like something has to give, especially in a tough AFC North. But Kirk going from Minnesota really has shaken things up because it takes the free agent, this couple of weeks here with free agency, and that's going to trickle into the draft because what Minnesota did on Friday, getting that extra first-round pick, and they have the ammunition, if they want so, to get up the draft board and get one of these quarterbacks outside of probably Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I was telling Big Ben, it was almost like some teams valued like Gardner Minshew. Like the Raiders valued Gardner Minshew over Justin Fields because that was a potential landing spot. And then you've got Denver and Minnesota, and even Tennessee. Like I think they value drafting a quarterback who could be like a JJ McCarthy or Bo Nix. Like they value those quarterbacks more than Justin Fields.
It's wild. It's wild that Bo Nix's stock is higher than Justin Fields. Somebody that is such a polarizing figure in Chicago. People are like threatening the Bears organization because they got rid of Justin Fields. Like it was everybody's fault but Justin Fields to the cult of Justin Fields. I mean, I think Justin Fields, here's my take on him. I think he's at times very electric to watch. And he's somebody that I'm pulling for. But at the same time, if I'm the Bears, that move is the easiest move to make. It's like you've got what the consensus number one pick that fell into your lap because you made the deal with Carolina last year, and you got the rest of the league contemplating giving you a day 3 pick. I mean, they got a bag of footballs in return for Justin Fields, and you're like, no, it's Caleb Williams. Like you take the red flags with Caleb Williams over what you already know about Justin Fields, and especially where he was contractually. They got to make a decision on the 5th-year option. And then after that, you got to figure out, what makes sense as far as what you want to pay him going forward. So is he somebody you want to commit $30 to $40 million a year? I think that's an easy no.
Yeah. Well, it's all about fit, right? And I don't think Justin Fields fit in Chicago. And I definitely don't think he fits in that Pittsburgh offense. Like, I think I've got my tiers. I've got elite, low-key elite, and good. Yeah. I think he's a good quarterback.
Yeah.
But if he was in, like, Baltimore, a run-heavy offense, a tight end, he would probably look good.
Yeah.
It just depends. Philly, he would probably look good in Philly.
Yeah.
But he went from one bad fit to another bad fit. And Big Ben has a saying, when you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have one. And there's going to be so much tension coming in Pittsburgh with what they're going to do and who's going to start. And is it Justin Fields' time? And is Russ too old? I could already see the storylines from now until the end of next year.
Yeah. I feel like at times Justin Fields and Russell Wilson suffered from the same issues, but completely different skill sets, different points in their career. But it's the Spider-Man meme. It's like we hold on to the football way too long. Yeah. Russ will run into a sack, and sometimes Justin Fields will make an unbelievable play. But more often than not, he's taking a big sack or he's throwing an incompletion. But no, you're right. Like Arthur Smith, like the only people that thrive in his offense are like third string tight ends and like wide receivers in the backfield. So it is an absolute odd fit. But
undrafted running backs.
Right. Yeah. Well, you've got a guy you just utilize the top 10 pick on, and Bijan. Arthur Smith will continue to be a menace to us fantasy football players. But what are your thoughts on the quarterbacks in this draft? You mentioned JJ McCarthy because he's somebody that, I got, being at the combine, being at the Senior Bowl, early inclination that this guy was legitimately going to become a top 10 drafted quarterback. And now he's pushing to be a top 5 guy. It's pretty wild, his rise in the pre-draft process.
I haven't seen enough of him. When I saw the Michigan games, I felt like they won with running the ball and defense, and then he would make some plays here or there. So I guess I'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
I do think this class is going to be like the 2021 class where there's like these 5 names, these 5 studs. But then you get one who's just going to be like a Trevor Lawrence, who's a good serviceable quarterback. I don't know who that's going to be.
I think it's got to be, if you're putting the smart money's Caleb, right? And I know that's chalk, but the arm talent's there. I think he's more competitive than people lead on. He's just he's unique. He's a little odd, but I think
now, is he a bad person? Or is that the media just trying to spin it so he'll fall further down in the draft?
It's really it's somebody who covers on a day-to-day basis, another polarizing guy, and somebody I think who gets there's a lot of misconceptions around, and the narrative went way out of control in Kyler Murray. I see a lot of similarities to where them being a bit introverted, a bit more Gen Z, with them having such an important position and being so high profile, people want more from them as far as sound bites and things that they want from a leadership standpoint, or what perceived as a leadership standpoint. I think Caleb, like Kyler, is way more competitive than people give him credit for, and I think he's going to be in a good position. He's going to endure himself to his teammates, and that's really what's going to matter. And you'll still see, like, we're still going to have to go through the Caleb Williams maturation process like we did with Kyler, where he's going to pout on the sidelines inevitably, and people are going to be like, see, he doesn't do it. But at the same day, like if he matures, he's got the skill set to where he can be easily a top 10, top 5 quarterback.
He's got Keenan Allen and he's got DJ Moore. So he's got some weapons. I'm just concerned about the Bears offense. Like, you've got to put an offense around him to allow him to succeed.
We got Waldron, who came over from Seattle, and it seems like that's still kind of like run heavy. Does DJ Moore play the TJ Lockett role, and Keenan plays the DK role? It's those pieces. I could see the Moore thing, but I don't know. And then I was at the Super Bowl Radio Row, and Jackson Jigba Smith was asked about Waldron's departure, and he's like, "Are we live right now?" He didn't know if he could speak. He was immediately out of pocket. So I haven't heard like the best things about their new OC as they move on from Getsy. So I think it's going to benefit potentially Seattle, but Chicago it's still like in their head coach, like Eberflus doesn't feel like he gives you that much confidence. There was a lot of talk that he could have been done after this year.
Yeah, there was. So staying in Arizona, moving back to college basketball. Now, I know you're a Sun Devil at heart. Yeah. But have you seen enough U of A basketball to give an assessment on the Wildcats?
Man, I mean, do they fit a lot of the similar narratives around the rest of college basketball with these, big-time programs? Like when we talk about, Carolina or what were the other ones that we were mentioning? Like you could throw Duke or any of the big time programs. Yeah. I think UConn is a little bit more set to make a deep run, where Arizona, they just run so hot and cold. And you got Caleb Williams who transferred there before the season from Carolina. And it's like they go as Caleb Love goes. And you would think that as far as the roster goes, it's as talented as Tommy Lloyd's had, but they just have these lapses, man, where they don't show up. They run cold, and they end up losing the teams that they're have so much more talent in, and it's tough to pin down. Like early in the season, you watch U of A, and they're beating up on some really impressive schools, and then the next thing you know, they beat Tennessee, then they beat Wisconsin. Like they've got some good wins on their resume, but then you see them go to Vegas, and you think that they're just going to run through the Pac-12 tournament. And they no-show in the second half against Oregon. And Oregon's a tournament team in its own right. But at the same time, like, they don't have the same talent that U of A has. It's just U of A could get hot and make an easy run to the Sweet 16 and then, match up with some bigger dogs. But they also have the ability to take a misstep in the round of 32, which I wish it wasn't so. Like, I've kind of eased off my Wildcat hate because I married a woman that went to the wrong school. And, I think that it's good for the sports scene around here to have a good basketball program, and we don't have that in Tempe with Bobby Hurley and crew. So I just think that they lack so much consistency that you don't know night in and night out what you're going to get.
Well, we saw it in the losses in the latter half of the Pac-12 to Washington State, to USC, to Oregon. I feel like they played down to their opponent. Like, they'll play up for a blue blood, a tier 1 school, but they'll play down. I think they'll beat Long Beach State. I'm not buying into the hype that Long Beach State is excited to be there and Munson's going to give it his all. I feel like he's already got his plane ticket booked to Cabo or somewhere in the south of France, and he's checked out. So I think Arizona will get by Long Beach. I think they're going to run into some trouble against either Dayton or Nevada. I mean, Dayton's got, I think, De'Aaron, I can't think of his name right now, but he's a 4. He plays like a 5. He can shoot the ball. He's going to be a problem for them to defend. And Nevada is sneaky good. Nevada can win as well. Steve Alford's in Nevada, right?
Yeah. He took another team to the dance. I think when you got somebody a big and they can kind of bump you around like Washington State did, that's where you run into trouble with Arizona, especially if they get a little cold shooting the basketball. I don't disagree with that. The Mountain West, man, 6 teams in.
But no team is higher than a 5.
Right. That's why it's just such
disrespect is real.
Well, then you had Patino in New Mexico winning that tournament outright, which I think confused a lot of people and probably really jacked up the seedings and jacked up the entire, like, who's in and who's out.
Well, you look at BYU, they're a 6, and San Diego State's a 5. And it's just like, it seems like San Diego State should be a little higher, and maybe BYU should be a little lower. But BYU had some great wins in the Big 12.
Yeah.
They beat Baylor. They beat Kansas at Kansas. They beat Iowa State. I think it's all going to get settled in the next couple of weeks. That's
right. That's why it's the most wonderful time of the year. Can I get your thoughts on Ohtani before I leave? I don't know how long I'm hanging out here, but I'll stay as long as you want. This is a wild story that dropped within the last 12 hours.
So you've got to, like, bring me up to speed on this. I know this is my jurisdiction, but like, was it his agent or his personal manager? What was happening? Let me Google it so I can have a thought on it.
I'll try to bring it to you, but there's been so many changes as far as the story goes. There was an investigation that had $4.5 million of money that initially we heard was Ohtani covering the gambling costs of his interpreter. And they fired his interpreter, the Dodgers did. And then it comes to find that Ohtani's name is signed off on 2 wire transfers of $500,000, so $1 million worth of wire transfers that are attached to gambling debts. So it's at first it's Ohtani was asked by his interpreter to pick up the costs on his gambling debt, and now it is that Ohtani was blindsided by this and had no idea, and he's the victim of theft. And you see these 2 guys in the dugout at the same time.
Wait. So are we saying this guy does not have a gambling problem and he just took some money from Ohtani?
We don't. Yeah, I mean that's what what Ohtani's camp is now pointing to. But ESPN and I think Jess Passan and Trish Thompson did some digging, and they're like, whoa, that's not the case. And then you see them in the dugout hours before this news all broke and that they fired his interpreter. They're just hanging out like you and I. They're just like shooting the breeze. But little do they know, like hours later, this huge bombshell report's going to come out. And it's just, people are speculating like who actually had the gambling problem. Where's the money from?
That's what I was going to say too, right?
Yeah.
Like, I love Ohtani, so it pains me to say this, but like, is this his interpreter a front for his gambling addiction or his gambling problem?
Because if it's what Ohtani's camp now is saying, I mean that could be prison time for this guy. So we'll see just kind of how this thing plays out. But who had a squeaker image than Ohtani? And now it's just like, well, I don't know what to think with the guy.
So this is his interpreter from the Angels.
Yeah.
And then when he signed with the Dodgers, he came.
They're best friends.
Oh,
They're apparently best friends. I mean, you see him. I mean, he and Ohtani have been inseparable during his time with the Angels in the off season. Like they're jet setting around in private jets, hanging out together. Them and their wives are hanging out. Now he's gone. Like within a snap of the fingers, he's out of there.
so I hope it's just like a best friend thing. Like, hey, I'm going to help you get out of this bind. Yeah. Here's some money. Yeah. I think Ohtani seems like he's no nonsense.
Yeah. Maybe he's got a little Michael Jordan in him. Maybe he just loves to. Maybe he's got that competitive itch that doesn't turn off after he's out, not between the lines.
That's quite possible as well.
You excited about I still don't feel like MLB. Like I won't acknowledge. I'll watch the games. I'll see the highlights, but I'm still traditionalist. I miss my Monday opening days.
Oh yeah, me too. Like it threw me off the games in Seoul, Korea. You know, I like turned on my phone. Oh, Dodgers won, beat the Padres. I was like, oh, opening day start. I'm traditional too. I'm like April 1st. That's when baseball is. When the calendar adjusts, I can't get used to the earlier opening days.
Right. The Thursday nights or whatever they've been doing.
Yeah.
I remember like just setting. It's like, oh, the Reds are playing somebody a Monday afternoon to kick off to open the season, and then I'll watch 3 to 4 to 5 games that day. And now it's not the same. They really did jack it up. Like I get the kind of getting the international flavor for it and putting it out there, but at the same time, the compromise opening day. I mean, there are a couple of different benchmarks as far as MLB seasons. Opening day, right? It's probably like Memorial Day, around the 4th of July, All-Star break, and then, playoffs.
Well, now it's like the international series, and then they have Sunday night baseball, and then some games open on another day. Like it's just, it's not consistent. I'm with you. Monday, whatever that Monday is, the last Monday in March or that first Monday in April, all the teams play. I don't want like half on, half off. I want all the teams because that truly is opening day.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Looks like Michigan State. They're up 14, about 6.5 minutes left. Duquesne giving it to BYU still. That just tipped the second half. And you got Creighton and Akron, a 3 and a 4, 14. They're knotted at 27.
Yeah, it's coming down to the fun time where we have the end of the games and the new game starting, and then a buzzer beater here.
Yeah.
And a turnover there.
Buckle up, K-Win. It's madness is here.
It is here. Well, I did not see enough of Duquesne. I saw plenty of BYU, and I thought with their shooting and their experience and playing against elite talent in the Big 12, so far I thought that they would have a better showing. But 30 points, and we're already 19 minutes in the second half.